We begin today with the growing crisis at the U.S.-Mexico border. CBS News has learned 4,200 unaccompanied migrant children are being held in Border Patrol custody. Many of them have been held longer than they legally should be. The Biden administration has ordered FEMA to help with the surge, and a group of Republican lawmakers are headed to the border today. CBS News senior White House correspondent Weijia Jiang has the latest on the growing crisis.
These images from a few days ago show young migrants arriving to the southern border. Because of a lack of space at long-term shelters, due in part to COVID restrictions, thousands are being held in short-term facilities, according to government records reviewed by CBS News. Democrats blame the Trump administration.
What we are seeing today is the consequence of 4 years of dismantling every system in place to address this with humanity and compassion.
But after plummeting in 2020, the number of migrant children in U.S. custody has surged since January.
It's the Biden open border policies that are inviting even more illegal immigration.
President Biden's coordinator for the southern border seemed to acknowledge a change in the White House may have had an impact.
Surges tend to respond to hope, and there was a significant hope for a more humane policy after 4 years of pent-up demand.
Craig Fugate was the administrator of FEMA in the Obama administration. In 2014, he helped manage a similar surge of unaccompanied minors.
Is there anything more they could have done to be better prepared to handle the surge?
It was going to be one of the challenges we knew early on. What are the numbers? What's the intel look like? So I think that's part of the reason why FEMA was asked to step in, is to help speed this process up. Allow the agencies to get caught up with the children, and then build a system that would then be able to surge and move faster through the system.
Back in 2014, then Vice President Biden traveled to Central American countries to send the message to migrants not to come. The White House says that is the message now, though there are no plans yet for the president to travel to the area. However, a delegation led by the Homeland Security Secretary has already visited there and briefed President Biden. Weijia Jiang, CBS News, the White House.
For more on this, I want to bring in Jennifer Podkul, Vice President of Policy and Advocacy for Kids in Need of Defense. Jennifer, welcome. Thank you for joining us. What do you think needs to be done to address this surge in migrant children at the border?
Sure. So what we're seeing is a result of children having to wait for very, very long periods of time when the Trump administration closed the border to them. Right, using Title 42, the CDC public health order, Trump closed the border and told children, you are not welcome here. You're not allowed to ask for help in the United States. What we're seeing now is a release of that pressure valve. So that's why the numbers are so high. They went from nothing, because no kids could ask for help, to all these children now being allowed to ask for help in compliance with the law. So what we need to see is ensure that there's enough staff to make sure that these kids can go to family, go to other sponsors in the United States as quickly as possible so that they can go through the immigration court process.
Unaccompanied children, though, sounds like such a perilous situation. Are they being brought to the border with adults, or are they making the journey all the way alone? How is it that all of these children, and I'm assuming there are, many of them that are not even teenagers, how are they making it this far on their own?
It's really remarkable. I'm a mother, and I get nervous when my kids want to cross the street by themselves. So to think of these kids traversing through dangerous territories across countries, it's kind of amazing. But so many of them actually do go on their own. The legal definition of unaccompanied means they're not with a parent or legal guardian. So some kids are totally on their own. Some kids travel in groups for safety. Some may be with an extended family member, but under U.S. law, they're deemed unaccompanied because they have to go through the court case by themselves. They have no parent or relative who can help them through that case. They have to make their case for protection on their own.
And then, of course, if they do make it to the border, the situation that they're finding right now is not much better on the other side. Some of these children are describing conditions like overcrowding, saying they are going hungry, some saying they were only allowed to shower once in 7 days. You know, what impact could these conditions have on the children?
Oh, it could have terrible long-term consequences. And we're talking about kids who've also been waiting in northern Mexico for at least months, if not longer, in terrible, dangerous conditions. We're very worried about what's going to happen to them. So I think what the most important thing that the Biden administration needs to do right now is reunify them with a family member or a sponsor here in the United States as quickly as possible. And then they need to make sure that that reunification is safe and those kids have the services they need, because they're going to need to tell their story about what happened to them and why they're here asking for help. And an immigration judge is then going to need to decide if this is a child who really truly needs protection and needs to stay in the United States, or if that child can be safely returned to their country of origin. But in order for them to do that, they need to be in a safe home, they need to get the services, and they need to have a lawyer help them tell that story.
Absolutely. And what about the children who do not have any family contacts here in the U.S., who come unaccompanied and don't have anywhere they can safely go?
Yeah, so the federal government runs different kinds of programs and shelters for children. There's usually a very small percentage of children that don't have anyone who's willing or able to care for them. Those kids stay in more of like a long-term foster care situation. It's a federal foster care program, and they have attorneys, and so they stay in that program until a judge decides that they can stay in the United States permanently. And if that's the case, they go into a federal foster care program so that they can live in a home and go to school and integrate into society.
All right. Well, Jennifer Podkul, thank you so much for joining us and giving us some insight into the situation there at the border. We appreciate it.
Thank you.